Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Friday, the 13th of November episode of StudentLoanJustice.org. I swear we had a Friday the 13th like a month ago, but whatever. That happens. I hope everybody is doing well out there in the country. As I said, it is Friday, November 13th. We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only group in the country actually fighting for student loan justice. Certainly the largest grassroots citizens group. So, for the first 15 years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for only the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Since last August, however, and certainly since last March, when we started a petition, we are now calling for the president to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order. So hopefully, if you don't live in an igloo near the North Pole or something somewhere, or out in the woods, you would notice that the media is talking all over the place right now about President-elect Biden's what is he going to do? Is he going to cancel student loans by executive order? So, guys, we were the lone voice in the wilderness calling for this for months and months and months. So the timeline is this. We did an article in Vice News last August of 2019, just sort of musing over whether the president indeed could cancel student loans by executive order. We said he could. Somebody else said they couldn't. But we knew that he could. And when the pandemic happened, starting around March, we started a petition calling for the president to do exactly that. The Higher Education Act gives the Secretary of Education, and thus the president, all the executive authority that they need to cancel loans by executive order. Now, the reason we started this petition in March was because, folks, this is a catastrophically failed lending system. It is done. It is toast. It is finito. Even before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. 80%. So that was before the pandemic. We also can now say that the class of 2004 has a default rate of 40%. But the thing about the class of 2004, folks, is that they were only borrowing 1/3 of what people are borrowing today. So the default rate for everybody walking around right now with student loans has got to be 60%, 70%, maybe even up to 80%. As I mentioned a minute ago, before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers not able to pay on their loans, or they're paying on their loans, but their balance was going up. So the subprime home mortgage default rate, for comparison's sake, was less than 20%. So right now, everybody walking around right now has got a default rate of something like 60, 65, who knows, 70%. Now that we're in a pandemic, maybe even higher. So it's a very safe thing to say that the default rate for student loans is triple, more than triple, the subprime home mortgage default rate. So folks, this is a catastrophically failed lending system. We started calling for it way back at 14 months ago, but we really started calling for it in March. And interestingly, right when we were really starting to take off, we had gotten over 500,000 signatures on the petition. We'd been interviewed by Fox News and Newsweek and many, 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 many other stations. All of a sudden, Elizabeth Warren comes up and Chuck Schumer, and they propose a Senate resolution calling for the president to cancel student loans by executive order. So, good job, people. That started here. Make no mistake. We may not get the credit for what's going on right now in the media, but you know, folks, I'm here to tell you, we may not want the credit for what is going on right now in the media. And here's why, folks. And we supported Elizabeth Warren when she was running for president. She met our minimum threshold that we required to endorse a candidate because of her position on bankruptcy for student loans. But this proposal that is being run up the flagpole right now all over the place in the media and that all these other groups are crawling out of the woodwork saying, "Oh yeah, no, we're for that, we're for that." But it started here. Make no mistake. Warren's proposal is very problematic, guys, and that's probably putting it a little more gently than I should. Elizabeth Warren's proposal calls for canceling up to $50,000. Now, up to $50,000 per borrower could mean anything. Now, if you're an optimist and you think the glass is sort of half full, then let's assume for a minute that the president cancels $50,000 for every borrower in the country. Okay? Now, I don't know about you, but most people on this group, they think $50,000 off their student debt tab would be, frankly, an insult. A lot of our members have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, and $50,000 wouldn't even come close to covering the interest. Now, I don't know what your situation is. The claim is that that would extinguish the loans for 90% of all borrowers, but that's wrong. That's just wrong, folks. I don't know how they're arriving at that number, but that's just nonsense. But folks, here's the fact of the matter, okay? Up to $50,000. They didn't say $50,000. They said up to $50,000 for a very good reason. And that reason is because they have no intentions of canceling $50,000 for the vast majority of people out there. They will put all kinds of strings on that. There will be earnings criteria. There will be maybe even net worth criteria. I don't know. They may pick and choose. Maybe some ethnicities will get more, some ethnicities will get less. But folks, here's the fact, and the fact is that the Department of Education would be put in charge of whatever loan cancellation proposal wound up coming out of the Biden presidency. This up to $50,000. And it probably won't be that, by the way. It'll probably be like $10,000. And that'll have strings attached too. But getting back to my main point is, guys, the Department of Education has no desire and no intentions of canceling any loans. We already have, and hey, Debbie Westmoreland Baker here can attest, we already have many loan cancellation programs in place. Like, for example, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. That's a loan cancellation program where if you work for 10 years for a nonprofit, you'll get your loans forgiven. Well, we're in like the year 2 or maybe even 3 now of the first batch of borrowers supposing to get their loans canceled. And I am here to tell you that 99% of those people are being denied. They're being disqualified. They're being told, no, sorry, you're not getting it for one reason or another. You didn't dot your I, you didn't cross your T, you were in the wrong repayment program, you didn't fill out your employment certification form right, or one of them didn't, whatever. The Department of Education finds ways to disqualify the overwhelming majority from these programs. That is how the Department of Education rolls. Hey, Debbie says, that's not money we borrowed either. That's the interest. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out like Debbie did. That's not money we borrowed either. That's the interest and bloated fees they've added to what we borrowed. That's exactly right, Debbie. That's exactly the point I was making. You know, for many people, in fact, I'd say the vast majority of people, certainly on this group, and I think nationally as well, their loan balances, most of those balances at this point are interest and fees and penalties and stuff other than original principal. So the $1.5 trillion that's outstanding out there in the country, my best guess is that only about a third, maybe even less of that $1.5 trillion in federal student loans is actual unpaid principal, original principal. Probably about $1 trillion of that is interest, penalties, fees, nonsense tacked onto the loan. So yeah, folks. The closer I look at this Elizabeth Warren proposal, I'm sorry to have to report, the less I like it. I think it could come to almost nothing for most people, and I usually am not wrong. In fact, I am very rarely wrong. In fact, I can only think of one time that I've ever been wrong on any claim or prediction that we've ever made. And that was about how the election went in Florida, this most recent go round. But anyways, just believe me when I tell you that the plan that we're seeing run up the flagpole right now is wholly untrustworthy. And folks, we can't let ourselves be screwed by a pleasant sounding but ultimately fake loan cancellation program. We've already seen that movie. We've already been on that carnival ride. The public service loan forgiveness program, the income-based repayment program. The vast majority of all of those borrowers will not be making it through IBR and are not making it through public service loan forgiveness. So folks, we don't have to put up with this shit. Pardon my French, but this is the worst big government lending scam ever inflicted on the nation. The founding fathers, who they themselves were being screwed under debt to British banks and merchants, and who they themselves called for uniform bankruptcy laws, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, they are on our side. They are looking down and shaking their head and saying, how did our citizens get so weak? Why are they running around like chickens with their head cut off? Why are they running and hiding with their tail between their legs? Why are they afraid of their government under the strength of this predatory, unconstitutional lending system? Bankruptcy protections do not exist for federal student loans, by the way. They also don't exist, essentially, for private student loans. Unconstitutional. The founding fathers are on our side, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to tell you. And we do not have to settle for some half-baked, half-assed, lame, sounds good, but actually isn't good, student loan cancellation gimmick. And I'm sorry to have to call it a gimmick, but it's a gimmick, guys. It just is. We don't have to settle for that. This lending system is catastrophically failed. Nobody should be paying on their loans now, and quite frankly, nobody should ever make another payment. So we don't give advice. You can do what you want, but in my humble opinion, paying any more money to feed this big government beast, certainly for federal loans, it's not only unwise, it's unpatriotic. These loans have got to be canceled completely at this point. I'll say that again. All federal loans must be canceled completely. They must be. There's no better option. In fact, I'd say there is no other option. You know, for 15 years, we fought very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to these loans in order to re-inject basic, bare bones, good faith, stabilize the lending system, and go forward. But folks, I'm here to tell you, it's too late. It's too late to return bankruptcy protections. That will, at this point, it won't solve this. What that will accomplish is it will force 10, 15, 20, 25, maybe even more million people into bankruptcy for the sin of going to college. Now, 25 million people is a lot of people. On an average year, only about 1 million or even less people file for bankruptcy in this country for any reason. So, it's not only a bad thing to do for the country, but it will overwhelm the bankruptcy courts. It's just logistically, it is an unfeasible, unviable thing to do. We would overwhelm the bankruptcy courts. And as I said, the more important truth there is that we would force 20, 25 more million people into bankruptcy on account of going to college. That's just stupid. We are a better country than that. The loans have got to be canceled. Now, I know a lot of people go out there like, yeah, but what about all the people that say that's not fair? And, if you borrow money, you have to pay it back. That's always been true, folks. But here we are in this pandemic. They just threw out $500 billion, probably are going to throw out $1 trillion in business loans, PPP loans, out to the country that don't have to be paid back. They're doing it for economic stimulus. And by the way, every dollar in PPP loans adds to the national debt or has to otherwise be paid for. Canceling federal student loans has already been paid for by the taxpayer. It would not cost one additional dime in tax money, and it would not add one penny to the national debt. So compared to making these massive PPP loans that don't have to be paid back, they could far more cheaply just write off these loans, write off these federal student loans, and come up with a better way to fund higher education in this country. This is a solution that is long overdue. This federal lending system has grown into an unsavable, predatory, big government monstrosity, and it's got to be put out of its misery. It's got to be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. This lending system is toast. So this stuff we're seeing from Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, while I'm very glad that they picked up our beat, I am very unimpressed, and that is putting it very gently, to see what they did with it. You know, something like what Elizabeth Warren proposed will only perpetuate this disgusting, obscene, untenable, unsustainable lending system for a few more years. And sorry, folks, but we're done. We are done. We don't have to put up with this shit. This lending system is dead. It's toast. Put a fork in it. By every reasonable metric or measure, this lending system has got to be gone for the good of the country. So, and by the way, the people that say, hey, if you borrow money, you got to pay it back. You can also put this in their face. You know, most of the people that say that, number one, they consider themselves to be conservatives. But what they are doing by wagging their finger at, first of all, tell them the PPP loan thing. Like, what about PPP loans? It's like $1 trillion don't need to be paid back. So what's the problem? But here's the second thing that you need to know. Most of the finger waggers, hey, I did this and I picked berries and I put my own way through and I paid my student loans. You have to pay yours. Most of those people, almost 100% of the time, 95% of the time, they consider themselves to be conservative. And I am here to tell you that by wagging their fingers at us, they are only enabling the perpetuation of the worst big government lending monstrosity this country has ever seen. And you know, most conservatives hate the colleges, right? Because the colleges are indoctrinating our kids and all these things. Well, they are serving to help those colleges. And you may even want to throw this in. You know, a lot of the government profit on this lending system is being used to fund Obamacare. So, and we take no positions on any of those things. I'm just saying that the people that wag their fingers at you, pay your loans, if they actually were aware what they were actually fighting for, they would be embarrassed and ashamed. So when people say that stuff to you, you tell them what I just said. You can rewind this thing by about 30 seconds to get it again. And at the end of explaining to them what they are really accomplishing by wagging their fingers at us, rather than at the big government monstrosity, predatory lending beast that they should be wagging their fingers at, or the bloated colleges that are more awash in cash today than they have ever been, they are helping those two things, not hurting them. So they should be ashamed of themselves. They should turn in their conservative card because they've been played for a fool by the very colleges and big government that they claim to despise. They should be embarrassed. Tell them that. And usually they will shut the frick up when you tell them that. So please remember that. Yeah, so Debbie says, We didn't borrow that money. Right. And that's just one of the obvious points that I never make. I always forget to make, Debbie. That money didn't go into our pockets in the first place. It went to the colleges. And any money that we did end up walking around with that was left over after tuition and fees and stuff like that were paid, most of that money probably went to like our landlords for rent, or maybe it went back to the school to pay for the dormitories and stuff. So we didn't see very much, possibly none of those student loan proceeds. Well, hey folks, I know it sounds like I'm kind of bashing on Elizabeth Warren, and I don't want to give that impression, but dudes, we've been doing this for 15 years now, folks, and even the most well-intentioned legislation, the student loan swamp will turn into a big nothing for us, and we don't have to take this shit. This lending system is done. It's got to be gotten rid of. It's got to be taken out to the back and shot, taken to the bath, and drown in the tub. So you heard it here first. Oh, shoot. I totally forgot. This is the first thing I should have said. We're asking everybody to register for a town hall that we are doing next Friday. It'll be a great town hall with Matt Taibbi of Rolling Stone magazine, who you may know, may have read his stuff. Really good reporter, nice guy, very smart guy. Also, Catherine Austin Fitz, who, believe it or not, was a board member of Sallie Mae, the worst student loan company in the country. Catherine was a board member for Sallie Mae for years and years. She now supports us 100%. So you're going to love, and also Tom Borgers, who's a nationally acclaimed federal investigator. You may have seen him top story on 60 Minutes for his lead role as head investigator for the government into the subprime home mortgage crisis. So this is a very... Oh, and I'm on there too, believe it or not. So this is a very heavy-hitting group of people, if you take me out of it. But no, you will love this town hall. Please, look up, look over there, look down, and you will see the Eventbrite link where you can register for it. It is free. By the way, it is free. But this is happening 3 p.m. next Friday, and it's happening through the college and universities of New York State. So do that. It's going to be a very strong town hall. Could really change things. Jump on. As I said, it's free. Sometimes the Eventbrite thing is hard to get your way through. You have to register. Sometimes you have to come out and go back in. It's kind of weird that way, but do what you have to do to get registered for the event, and you will not regret it. You'll be very glad that you did. And tell all your friends about it as well. The very last thing I'll say is if you can donate to us right now, that would be also very, very good. We survive and thrive only on very nominal and moderate donations from you, from people who are by and large distressed student loan borrowers. So as you can imagine, it's pretty slim pickings for us on this end. But nevertheless, dudes, we are kicking ass. All the stuff we're hearing about loan cancellation by executive order right now would never have happened but for my efforts and most importantly, your efforts out there. We're coming up on 750,000 signatures on the petition. We're hoping to get up to 1 million. We've got a lot of balls in the air right now, folks, and it would be good to be able to keep our lights on, like literally. So if you can donate at this time, I think I put the link to donate up or over there or maybe down there. studentloanjustice.org/support. So with that, folks, I will bid you a great weekend and a hopefully not unlucky Friday the 13th. I will be back tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. Ed will be back on Tuesday. Things are happening very fast right now, folks. What you do, sitting there to help us promote our petition, etc., right now really could mean the difference between getting these loans gone or getting stuck with another failed, ridiculous, lame bunch of nothing from Washington, D.C. This is our time to shine, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you'll go to our petition, which is change.org/cancel student loans, and do all of the bullet points there that give you very, very easy steps that you can take in probably 15 or 20 minutes that will help grow our petition significantly. We're trying to get up to 5 million signatures, folks. I don't think that's too much to ask. So please make that happen. Have a great weekend. Keep us posted on your achievements. Good luck, Godspeed, and God bless everybody.